to the flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call me in order. Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for May 28th.
And one thing we ought to add is a discussion for some help while we have a FMLA situation with courthouse.
Okay, I'll add that as number 15.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll make that second.
All in favor?
Right.
Motion passed. Sean, did you go with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes for May 21st, 2024.
And I'll second.
Any discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meetings 10, please.
Okay, I had a busy week last week. Thursday, I met with Terry Dvorak at Red Lion. We went to all the locations again. Terry will be on Zoom here a little later to answer any of those questions. I gave you updated packets. Just to give this a real brief once over, we were concerned about the look at the courthouse on the solar panels. I really didn't want them on the roof. They've moved them to a behind this building on a raised pedestal. So they'll be behind this building in what he calls a canopy, so the county cars can park underneath the canopy. That was probably one of the bigger changes. The roads department did not change. It's still on the roof of the big building. Out at the complex, they moved the panels to the strip to the west of the road that really doesn't get mowed very much. So there's that long strip that goes beside the road. They'll go there. And then on the very east side of the jail, on that slope kind of there. So they're not, other than the panels on the west side, of course, as you come in, you'll see them, but on the other half on the east side, you don't notice them much. So there will have to be some upgrades to the courthouse. The courthouse, yeah, they've got to disconnect some old transformers and add a new transformer. And then the jail, there's some changes on some of the disconnects, but Terry will go over all that today. That is all included in this proposal. So it's still zero out of pocket.
Then they know it's 208.
Yeah.
phase.
They're going to change it, I think, to 408 3-phase and then step it down.
Gotcha.
So that's one of the changes that's going to be made. Had a meeting after that. We had a meeting with early childhood development. We approved the budget. The budget was lowered by 40-some thousand, so they cut some of the budgets by 10%. Didn't make some people happy, but if we don't have the money, we don't have the money. They did approve an application for toothbrushes for Lee County Health Department for preschoolers. They're trying to get dental care up in the preschoolers. They see a problem there. Other than that, it's pretty much business as usual on that. And the only other thing I did yesterday, I attended the VFW memorial out at the cemetery, and that was it seemed to be very well attended. Not as much as I guess everyone had hoped, but they did a wonderful job. So that was my week.
I had nothing. I'm busy today, but nothing pertaining to the county.
Thing I had is I had community action. Tuesday, and I also had just little things off and on down at the transfer station. Joe's still gone. She'll be gone the rest of this week, and things are going good, looking good. Still trying to get that back wall to get it done, but I'm gonna have to open it up and put it on this winter when things slow down for some people. But it's okay.
Just in case you didn't know, your conservation director had a baby girl. Everybody's doing good. I got to see the baby girl yesterday.
Good.
He was off last week. He indicated that this week he might be kind of part-time-ish. And then next week he'll be back to full-time, so.
Yeah, pretty flexible.
Yeah.
That's
Everybody's doing good.
congratulations.
Yeah, everybody's doing good.
Okay, public input.
I do have some comments for the solar guy, if that's permissible.
Yeah, okay, thank you, good. Anybody else?
That bad.
If we have any payroll changes.
Nope. Did not.
That's good.
All of them back. Did not.
The fireworks permit, if you want.
I don't see that.
Straightforward and all that.
Give me that file, it's probably here.
What's it? Thank you.
He on next last week?
What's that?
I thought he was on here last week.
Who's that?
Jacob Ford.
He was, this is. Another one.
Another Jacob Ford or a different paper?
It's.
I'm not trying to corny you, I just, I remember his name.
I believe for shift differential. This one is,
I think you're right, I do remember.
For a 5-year.
yeah, his longevity,
And this is a step,
yeah.
okay. So I'm not crazy. Well, I am, but that's exciting.
They're not certified.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
If you're okay with the fireworks permit, I'll make a motion. Sure. I'll make a motion to approve the Lakeside Club fireworks permit. Looks like we've got the dates between 7/3 and 7/8, approximately 9 PM, not AM, PM.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Any discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
I have a question about that. How come you have to have a fireworks permit if you can buy them over at Plymouth Junction?
You can buy them, you just can't set them off. I mean, it's part of.
Every city in the county has their own, but
rules.
this is county, I mean, so I can go over there and buy them and they can't shoot them off? Legally, is that true?
There's a level. The little
Or just,
fountains, you can do what you want, but when you get to the big displays,
Okay, you mean like something like from J and
JNS, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, you gotta get ever. It gives the opportunity for people to say, absolutely not, I don't want them to shoot them off over my house every year, and it gives them a platform to complain or
Sure.
object. Don't notice too many complaints countywide, but I do get complaints when in the city. There are some people that don't appreciate that, so.
Animals.
Yeah,
People with
dogs,
animal
dogs and
disabilities.
animals probably the worst.
So people in apartments leave town,
Oh, I know,
but they can't help it, they.
but one time a year.
That doesn't.
Enjoy it.
Sometimes it just goes on.
Yeah, there's some people that,
8:45, I got Vicky.
yeah,
She come over.
Well, I don't know, she wasn't here this morning.
we have the acting sheriff here, but I don't see him on the agenda. Are you
I
here
just-
for a particular reason?
Just the button and if any questions about anything.
I don't have that paperwork in front of me. I don't.
You 58 on.
Do we have paperwork on this budget?
We got it last week. They tell me. I know, do you have it on this guy? Do you have this guy? Do you have it on this? Shave it off. No, no. Brandon said it was got it, but you know, we have paperwork.
Mhm. Right there's, it's on. Resolution to the big.
Oh, God, yeah.
Okay, we have to table the number 7.
She won't be back.
I guess not.
Hey, can I get a money? You wanna do it next week?
Yeah, I'll put it on next week.
You guys wanna?
Go ahead.
Make a motion to table it for until next week.
So,
We're tabling debating the taxes on inactive parcel 1320331920, right?
correct.
I will second that.
Hey, all in favor? Aye. Move to next week.
Let me see. Warren Harlan's to take the 845.
Yeah, we can move them up.
You want to take the
Did we get the painting thing taken care of yet? No?
They came in to touch up, but they still have the plumbing issues where they're cleaning and stuff, that still needs to be taken care of.
I will, kind of poke at him. They got the roof issue resolved. So I'll go ahead and poke at Geo and. If you can't
Which I
get
just
that.
sent another email, Gio and Josh, this last week about some more appealing, so.
This new stuff.
When do we ever get into that window and go judges change?
Yeah,
Yeah, I called, talked to him about it and he
Get
said he's
back
gonna
to
go
you on
look at that.
Thursday.
And that was
Hey, I feel in favor.
Thursday,
Okay,
yeah,
so I'll follow up with him. I'll stay on him.
well, we just have to look at what we have right now, so. Yeah.
is that epoxy?
Yeah,
Yes.
that
Mhm.
great stuff. Remember the Pina was in here telling us how
Mhm.
great that stuff was and the greatest things from sliced bread. Yeah.
You got any extra cells?
We do not,
Well.
do you wanna
Put the
join?
guy, how good it was.
Some days that would be a
I bet
good
you'll
thing.
figure out the problem.
People stop bothering me.
If you take my cell phone, it might be a vacation.
Yeah,
Brian, you wanna go ahead and start this?
I do. Thanks for the invitation.
You bet.
So I'm just gonna give you a rundown on some of the things I've been doing, and then I'm gonna talk about the weather. Far back, April 24th, with TC Energy, we had an update, we had our tabletop exercise, that did real well, but from that, I'm engaged in any of their information, the TC pipeline very small corner of Louisa County, but they're very engaged. I like working with those guys. On the 25th, I participated with National Weather Service regarding their radar fundamentals and what that really means and how that works and how they get their data and the improvements that they're making. On the 30th of April, there was a severe weather coalition meeting with all my partners regarding severe weather and how we interact and how we stand up during storms. May 1st is a typical pause communication test. It's just a standard test, so that the rest of the state knows we're engaged and that system is working for emergency notifications. And on that same day, we had a statewide emergency management call. So once a month, all EMAs get on the phone with the director of Homeland Security, and they give us any hot topics and for discussion or anything new in the world of the emergency management. On the 2nd of May, had a locally or interagency meeting right here and for all the resources in the county for our population. And that's a very active group, very good participation. Cindy leads that. So I stay engaged with those people, not that I can add much to that as resources for people, but I get to know the people that offer the resources. So in times of disaster, I know who's who in the zoo, that kind of thing. It's always good to know these folks. On the 8th, I participated with an underserved population preparedness planning. So those are the ones, the folks that I worry about the most. The people that can take care of themselves and after disaster will. But there's a population of people that can't. Sometimes it's the underserved where I got my eye out. On the 13th, it was the COAD, community organizations activated during disaster. That was a network call, again, meeting people and networking and find out who needs what, who has what, resource allocations and things. The next day was a FEMA call regarding disaster recovery. And that's just the typical thing for instance, my role is not so much as a response, it's always going to be the cleanup after the fact. So it's a recovery effort so that we're focusing on. On the 16th was a regional interoperability communications committee call. That's just we're always engaged with how to improve our communication in the county. We're taking the baby steps to become interoperable with sheriff's cars are 80 or 90% capable of this interoperability, and for less than $30,000, the 911 Commission agreed to pay for a new consulate out of our dispatch so we can monitor a couple of top groups at a time. So we're getting engaged with that interoperability plan. On the 20th, we had some severe weather headed our way, and it missed us, thank goodness. It went north and south, or just like it always does lately. But I shared that with everybody I know, school superintendents, you guys, all the fire chiefs, all the cities. But also then reach back out to the faith-based email list that I have to say, just be prepared for if we need you type thing. And a good example of that would be during one of the storm events, it was the Methodist Church heard about somebody in the trailer park that was concerned they had no place to go. They opened their doors, they had 12 or 15 people from that trailer park come and hang out at the church during the storm. So I just kind of gave that example to all the faith-based, all the churches in the county to say that was a good thing to happen, and please consider doing the same. So we're going to develop on that too. On the 21st, I had the ITDRC, the Information Technology Disaster Resource Committee, or the center actually, and that's just a group of people that respond during disasters, major disasters. So figure something as big as if Muscatine got hit, they lost all their cell phones, all their internet. These people can roll in and stand up that service to the community, and they have done it. And they're engaged now. They're an international scope, and they're tried and true, and they have the resources. So they're on my call list, my hotline. Then also on the 21st, we had the 21st, 22nd, I participated with the evacuation planning and strategies with some local people all the way down into Keokuk, and had a discussion with those people about priorities and planning and capabilities and finding gaps in that. And then after the storms too, just to know when storms do happen, I get those emergency calls and emergency management. They want to know right away what your damages are. So even though we had severe wind come through, Muscatine took a big hit, and Des Moines County had damages. And the counties all around us had damages. We had nothing reportable. We had one shed out in the Conesville area. But in Louisa County, it got destroyed. But collectively, we'd have to hit a threshold, a dollar threshold to be considered for assistance from the state. But those phone calls start happening quickly, and they want me to have information in 72 hours. So I reached out to all the fire departments and secondary roads to say, if you have any damage, just let me know right away, so I can start tallying that. Luckily, thank God, it was kind of not event for us. Last thing is, you probably noticed the river coming up, and we're coming up quickly. And when we got that notice on about the 22nd, I guess, 21st, 22nd, we got information from the Johnson County Emergency Management, what the plan was for the Coralville release, water coming out of the dam. And that's because of the water that's stacking up behind the dam. They want to get ahead of it in case there's more rain that's coming. So their target was to maintain the lake level, Coralville 683 mean sea level. All right, so at the top of the spillway, the Coralville Dam is 712. So they want, there's not much of a cushion, it's like 20 feet, 21 feet in there. So to make that happen, and considering the water we're getting, Louisa County specifically from the Cedar River, they're releasing 10,000 cubic feet a second. And it's typically a lot smaller than that, shorter than that, but to stay ahead of the game, they're releasing 10,000 cubic feet a second. So that's half what the dam's capable of. They could go to 20,000. So depending on the rise of the river, depending on the water that happens up north of us and how that's coming down, they were planning to release more and more and more, keep the level of the dam same.
So they're anticipating more than 10,000 cubic feet per second?
I would say, yeah. And so I looked at it today, I think they're only 10,300. But their plan was, as the water from the north keeps coming in to the top of Coralville Dam, they were projecting on today to be releasing up to 14,000. So they're not there, because the good news is from that, I look at lockstep up north, and for this, like for instance, the Cedar River Conesville, it crested today. So the water coming down the Cedar from Conesville that's crested, and the water we'll be receiving, that will come down. But up in Marengo, so up in Iowa County, they crested last Sunday, but that water's still moving. So if the flow coming out of the dam is 10,300, the flow rate of the river at Marengo, it's about 15,000 cubic feet per second. So it's still a lot of water headed towards the dam, but they're just staying ahead of it. And all of our gauges here for Wells Junction, Wapello, and Oakville are going to crest at about the 30th. So in about 2 days, we're going to crest. We'll be back on the way back down. There is a road closure right there at Oakville. You probably, if you've been around the county, back road into Oakville off 99 up the Capra, so that's all in the water right now. And that'll be there for a week probably, but then it's all depending on the weather. That's where we stand today. We're crested, we're headed on down the slope. Just so we don't get any more rain, it's a big good thing. But it's just like the winter snow melt. We keep an eye on what's happening in Minnesota. We need to keep an eye on what's happening up in around us up north of us, Iowa County, Johnson County. Manageable so far.
The reason for that gate opening to the 10,000 feet was because of a large rain in Marshalltown, I think, in that email last Thursday.
Yep. So the storms that missed us still happened around us and collecting water. Okay. I'm going to keep my eye on what's going on north instead. That's all I got for you. So you know what I do too, though, I'm more proactive with this kind of stuff. I put all this information out to all the partners, to all the levee districts. I'm not personally calling people like Jeff Hankey out here. The water will sneak in his back door. So I stay in touch with everybody about that, and I don't try to regurgitate the information, so I don't miss it. I share the exact information I get. I put it out just like that. And so same thing, even so here we are, not even official summertime yet, we're looking into next winter. I'll be working closely with Adam about how we communicate better before the snowstorms hit. Remember how we met out there one day, about 2 days into the storm. It was okay, it was manageable, but what if it really got worse? So to take the pressure off Adam and let him drive that bus But he was taking phone calls from a lot of individual people every day. It might be better to have everybody on the phone in the morning. Here's the plan, talk to you in the afternoon if we need to. But we'll do a better job of communicating and circling the wagons ahead of these events like that. That's what I'm doing with this water too, keeping a close eye on.
I got a question. You mentioned that on storms that there's people out there, which I know elderly people that cannot take care of themselves if something happened to their house to get out. Do you have a list of the underserved that's easily attainable that we have, if something happened, that we could contact them immediately or?
I don't have a list because that can be defined in several different ways. For instance, underserved could be just people that have a language barrier. Or those kind of things like that, or economic barriers type thing, and financial barriers. I mean, they don't have transportation, those kind of things. So I don't have a list like of all those people. But those are the people we look out for in those events. So when the Red Cross rolls in, we can have translators, and we have different translators. But no, we don't have a particular list. Another thing to consider though would be the homebound and out in the county that can't get to town. That might not even have a cell phone, so we need to know who to check on those. So
Well,
using an example of the snowstorm though, I put it out to the fire chiefs every day to say, who do you know that in your area that can remove snow? Because anytime I would get a phone call, we just go straight to the sheriff, to the fire department and say, who's your guy on call? And we could remove snow that way. Similarly, that's how I would approach that.
what provisions do we have for the 300 and some people over consumption that Burmese? What do we have to contact them during storm warnings? What kind of information? How do we translate that has that language barrier? What do we do? Is there something out there that?
Well, for instance, anything to do with the train or the weather and this water particularly, I sent the emails to the Tyson safety person and let them know they have their translators on site. But also there is the Alert Iowa app that they can sign up for. And we talked about that a year or two ago when we signed up, but the language in that is limited. They do not have a Chin dialect of Burmese, the French and Swahili and those other things, but so we lean on the leadership of Tyson, let's say, in that application. Keep them informed and manage that.
I mean, you send out, we understand it, but a growing population might not understand the warnings. Maybe something to look into.
Yep, and they run several shifts, so that's something to think about, but there are.
And they all don't work at Tyson. I found that out. A lot of them do not.
And it's just how people work there, it's their families that are embedded in their homes that wonder, is dad coming home from work, or they're worrying about their families that are home because I handle work, what's going on with my family? Those would be the underserved and challenge.
Just a question. Thank you.
Mobility challenge and all kinds of things.
Do we still have a good dialogue with Two Rivers on a water event like this?
Well, I had an appointment with Vicky and the new fellow there,
Yeah,
and that got canceled a couple times. And so on events like this particular high water event, I copy their email, I haven't called them, but I also copy Richie Otter. I can depend on Richie to nudge them, say, are you watching?
okay.
Contacts people down there.
Yeah, I haven't seen they used to send out a email newsletter during an event like this, telling what was coming up or, the flood levels, and you don't see that right now. I don't know.
There'll be times though, I'll send out emails to, for instance, this the high water, I'll send it out to maybe 30 or 40 people. And it would be very helpful. People say, message and see, thank you, because I don't get anything back. I can only assume they get the message, but sometimes leadership changes or people change positions. So I don't know, I'm reaching the right
Emails.
the world I live in.
Sounds good. Any other questions for him? Okay,
All right.
thank you. Let's go ahead and open the public hearing. Gentlemen, if you would please, that's number 8.
Make a motion to open public hearing for the fiscal year 2024 budget amendment.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
It's now open.
When you get time, can you?
Yeah.
Look that stuff down again. Thank you.
Al, do you wanna go early? Sure can.
Yeah, no, I'm a little disappointed in public notice on this tax deal. Well, back, I don't want to kick a dead horse. But I would like to see a few changes in
Those two. I got. After the mayor, you know, we do those stories, and I got these from Alan. Person.
I just believe very strongly that, you know, the last meeting, we talked about how it's always been done that way. Well, if we did things the way we'd always done in the past, we'd still be pulling everything with a pair of donkeys, a couple of sticks tied to it, and, we wouldn't have invented a wheel, so. I just think it's time we visit how we let the public know and provide easier access to the public to participate in some of these practices. I think the county owes it to the taxpayer to make that happen. I think it's the timing of the meetings as well as the notice. You know, as I said last time, 8:30 on a Monday morning is a poor time to try and have the public participate. It's almost like you don't want the public to participate. And my suggestions would be, and Brian just sat here and rattled off a list of a list that he has where he sends notices out to people. Well, that's a whole lot better than a little 10-word notice in the minutes that get printed under the legals in the backside of the Republican. So I called the Republican, and they've got 900 subscribers in Louisa County, 969 to be exact. I couldn't get exact numbers from the Gazette, but they're at 800. So that's a pretty small percentage of the houses that we have within the county. But my thought is that, and this goes back to years of being in business, you know, if you've got an unhappy customer, he tells 10 people. If you've got a happy customer, he might tell one. So if there was a notice placed in the paper and people, they tell others, and word of mouth is how we do business down the trial. We never put an ad in the paper, you know, it was word of mouth, but and in order to get that started here, I think that we have to notify people through the paper. Also, I think that email bulletins like Brian has, send it out, have the mayors post it. I just think there's a better way than what we're doing right now. And I don't know, does anybody disagree that we could make improvements? I think we have to.
Oh, I agree, there's always room for a lot of improvements.
And I don't think any of this would cost much, and I don't know what an ad in the paper costs, 1/8 of a page. But if you had a can, well, it wasn't bad to buy whole pages when I was on a trial, but if you had a can at the door and had people donate to pay for that, I think people would pay to know what's going on. I'm not saying that's the best way, I'm just using it as an example.
It needs to be, and she give us copies that, Roger, I don't know if you've seen all these with, and they somebody put copies of it.
I'm here.
You got some extras?
Well, when you send out an agenda, it goes to probably 80 different emails.
Yeah, I send it to mayors and the papers,
We try, but it needs to be refined.
It's gotta be point of interest, you know, it can't be.
It's not just
in a
here
whole
either.
bunch of other stuff.
The whole state does the same way, and it's not right. It just needs to be,
in the code of Iowa, that's what that
So
is.
that's made it right.
no, that's what it's saying, they don't make it right, but we just need to change it.
I meant to talk to our policy and procedure man. You know, other counties is going through this, there's probably. Everybody's making a procedure to do it
It's on
more
the website too.
electronically.
It's accountability in government, we've gotta have it, period. Yep. Work it all.
We all agree. Yeah, we need to recognize a lot of our like stuff that we don't utilize, but the state don't count that as putting it in there, but it does cost quite a bit for advertising. I know our budget is,
Yeah, our budget is a $280,000 budget, and most of that is publications.
yeah, it's expensive. It's gotta be there. It's a cost we have to have, because we have to, but there's gotta be other means to put that out there, especially today. There's so many platforms that go out there, it's just not recognized. The state is still way behind. We need to get these out.
Well, the problem that the state has, and you know, they've had a couple of bills presented in the last 10 to 15 years where they want to eliminate the mandate that the counties have to publish their stuff in the local papers. Well, I totally disagree with that. I mean, you look at the demographics of Louisa County and look at how many elderly people we have. You look at the lack of broadband within the county.
That's a huge thing. That's a huge thing for.
Well, it is. So that's not the answer. It's gonna take a blend of everything. And I just like to see the county step up. Maybe Louisa County needs to lead this instead of follow the state.
Nope, we hear you. Maybe we can look and see what the other people are looking at and different things, but I agree.
It's people within the county, don't go fishing.
But it's not gonna be one thing, it's gonna be maybe 50 different things, but.
Well, and we have 2 official papers, so it's in the Columbus Gazette also. And we do have it on our website.
Problem with the papers is. I don't know. The problem with the papers is the low circulation, and then I've gotta be honest. I'd rather spend a night in jail and have to read all of those notices, those legal notices in the paper.
How many people look at it?
Precisely, that's my point.
We can arrange,
we've
but
got
we can
both.
arrange all of it though.
Come up with a better way.
We can do a trustee program.
Work release.
Get him orange, gotta have orange covered all.
Well, who's got the time and patience to read that?
And in small print, but we do that to save money. And something that was implemented years ago.
The
But it
biggest thing for us,
discourages participation.
biggest thing for us, if you want something out on, use Facebook. And we can get the message out to somebody within a couple thousand people within a couple minutes.
Right. But then there's people like me that have to do social media.
Right, I agree with you.
There's a county website, I mean, this is posted.
But if I go to the county website, how deep do I have to dig to find it?
You go under Board of Supervisors. And then you go, it'll pull up, it'll have supervisor minutes. And agendas and the recorded. So it would be under the agendas.
So, but my point is that should be one click, upcoming public notice meetings and boom, here it is. Shouldn't have to go through all those steps and lean through minutes and agendas to try and ascertain what's important.
And I was thinking things like we posted in courthouse here, conservation, public health, secondary roads, I think they're still posted out the window. Maybe we need to look at expanding that paper postage to making copies for like the cities and stuff like that. That's something that they can put up and their people would see it. Cause the elderly, my dad don't get on the internet.
Just call their attention to it, and then they'll start talking about it and they'll tell people.
Well,
That's the power.
I promise you, we'll look at more opportunities on that, but it's gonna take maybe 100 different solutions to make it more, but one thing's not gonna get it. I agree with you.
And I think he was talking about the timing of the meetings, not just having one Monday morning, you guys haven't covered that.
We have one
Or
Tuesday.
Tuesday morning, maybe.
Well, the tax one you had at 8:30 on a Monday morning.
Yeah.
And then the next one, the
That's
second
because we
hearing,
had to have it 2 separate days.
To get fit the timeline, we had to,
Yeah. we
Jump it
had
up
to
till
do it on
Monday.
that day.
So y'all got.
But that was-
Balls to juggle here, you know?
Something that important, that there needs to be two of those, one in the morning and one at night. So those people that work shifts can attend one.
But there are some things that you have to do during the day. And I'm just gonna step in because the sheriff's one of them. We're required to do like sheriff sales certain times of the day. So we can only do them between the hours of 9 AM and 3 PM or something like that. So we would not be able to do something like that for the sheriff's office.
Well,
You know,
that's,
so I don't know if the tax levy is the same way or not, you know?
I mean, we're doing everything by code, so I guess I'll have to look into that, because then they'd have to pay overtime for the people that are in the evening hours, so.
Be elected officials of the meeting.
Oh, yeah, well,
I'm surprised just the people that go to YouTube and watch these now, and the feedback I get.
yeah, we had a couple.
This is probably done,
800 people. Yeah, that shocked me, which is good. And most days it's 23 people watch it, but. We're trying, and we're not too many, if you look in the county, the whole state, there's very few that has a YouTube. Of the meetings, fairly few. I mean, if you look in there, Scott County has, and some of your bigger ones, but most counties do not choose to do this. We're trying, but we just gotta do a better job. But we're on TV, but you have to have internet.
well, you have to have internet, and then it's also the time that you're on TV,
Well, you can watch it any day.
but I can't comment. If you're having a live meeting on YouTube, you can comment. But if you're looking at it 2 days later, there's no way to
Gotcha.
comment, and.
Yeah.
And that
I still hear them.
doesn't enhance public participation.
Yeah. Yeah, we hear you. Yeah. And I like our budgets. I've always complained about this, the last, because there's a lot of people interested in supervisor openings. But there was 6 years that we had 0 people in our gallery. Every day. Just the last 2 or 3 years, we started having participation in our meetings. So I think it's changing, and I hope it's changing, but I never did understand why we could have a budget meeting and $18 million of taxpayers' money, and nobody has anything to even say about it. And that's why I think I don't care, I like to see we have to expand our gallery. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see more public input. That's our direction we have to go by. Is by public input.
Let's be honest here, 8:30 on Tuesday morning, unless you're retired, how do you get off?
What time you want it?
Well, that's for you guys to work out.
Well,
I would,
No,
yeah,
public
if
input.
somebody was gonna ask me
Public
how to do that. You'd have 3 of those meetings on your Tuesday morning at 8:30 in a month, and the 4th one is at 7 o'clock at night. And that gives the people that work all day an opportunity to come and find out what's going on.
In their defense, they did do that years ago, cause I did attend a couple of evening meetings.
and we did
it's,
a lot.
that's, I don't know, 3, 4
We
years.
we had
ago.
evening meetings that there was as many people as there is here right now.
They did try. That doesn't mean you couldn't go back and do it again. Because like Brad said, just since I've been here, I've seen more activity in the audience, so maybe it needs to go back.
Shoot, when I first started, there wasn't even press when we had it over at the courthouse,
Yeah.
other than what the auditor was writing down.
First meetings I ever came to, some people had to go outside because there wasn't room in that little.
That closet.
Yeah, closet. Good way to say
You know, in their defense, these guys are all going to the nightly meetings too with EMA, 911, public health, conservation. I'm at those same ones and, you know.
It's part of the job though, you know.
Just-
I agree, I know.
Just changing that meeting time isn't necessarily gonna be the magic one, you gotta work it. You gotta say, hey, we're gonna meet the first Tuesday night of every month, and that's right, and we want public participation, we're doing it for you, public.
Sure, we'll try.
Somebody's gotta sell
Some counties, Henry County for one, they might have a meeting one week in Thomas Junction, another one in. They'll move it around that way, but they tried it and it didn't really do much for them. I mean, it's all been tried and thought of.
When we, extend that on our, agenda, maybe, let's go maybe a week or two and give us a chance to kind of maybe talk to some people and see what would work. Would that work out?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing it to us. Thanks for trying to be part of the solution now.
Yep.
So we're still in public
Hearing.
hearing, can
Sure we are.
I ask questions?
About
Yeah,
you or,
yeah, me.
Yeah.
Am I allowed?
it's open anyway.
Okay.
Yep.
It looks like the difference between the expenses and the revenues on this. It comes out to 583, 896, 94, is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay, how does that? Affect our year-end countywide budget? Where are we at now, do you know? Cause I don't see that
We're
here.
on, which one do you have?
Let's have this 4 or 5 page thing. And it looks like it's all based on the expenses for this budget amendment, but I don't see how this what this does to the entire county budget. Cause that's the number we keep working on, Susan keeps working on over and over, and I keep asking every few weeks where we're at and how's it going, and
She's saying she does not have that. She's waiting to see what people use, departments use.
okay. And it. Susan, when you get time, would you work on that? What if, when and if we approve this today, how that affects the county budget and at the, where we're at currently? Cause that's the number I think we're keeping our finger on the pulse here of that and to see where we're at.
That's a total of expenses.
The total, yeah,
What's
so we've got,
What's the revenues?
the expenses are roughly 1.5 million, and the revenue is really close to $1 million. So it comes down to 583,000 and change.
Of added expense.
Of added
to
expense,
Last year's budget.
All right. So I
And
just,
she said, yes, I
Okay.
will,
Yeah,
I need to work on this
Okay.
bus selection.
okay. And I guess one other thing I'd like to see moving forward when we do amendments is coming to the board and asking for permission to expend before we expend it.
Yeah, we can't do it afterwards.
Yeah, so there's gonna be a little change here coming up from this coming year that we need to do.
So can I ask a question on that part?
Sure.
You know, with my maintenance issues that we have at the jail, you know, we're over budget probably currently and will be because we have to hire out. What am I supposed to do about that kind of stuff?
Well, I think we have a bidding process if it's over a certain level, so we'll know that.
$1,000, that part of the
But
bidding
if it's not in your
process.
budget,
So then we just stop with the games and then the building goes to wherever.
no, you don't stop.
I mean, I'm just asking.
But we have to live with your budget.
I get that.
And if it's not in your budget, then you come forward and explain to it, and we try to figure out where there's money at, but we cannot fix anything, nothing, zero. Or do anything, if it's not in your budget, we can't do it before we come to board, try to figure out where to get the money.
But like I've said multiple times, we're hiring out things that
That's
shouldn't
okay.
be hired out.
Susie, give me an example of one thing that
So-
would come up.
One of my things is off the top of my head, like 6 or 7 months ago, we had an overflow of a washing machine. So I had to call, I wrote up a maintenance thing like I was told to, and was told you'll need to call someone to come and fix it. It ended up being that the pit behind it was full. And once you drain that water out, it wasn't the washer at all, it was the pit. If we would have taken our time to go look at it as the maintenance person, and I'm not trying to throw under the bus, but this is what happened. It wouldn't have cost me $300 to call someone down here to look at a washing machine that wasn't broken.
But how much you have in your budget?
We're already over budget though. We were already over budget.
Well, coming into the new year though.
So, but this is
It's
just,
adjusted and amended on this one.
it is, but
I
I'm just
get it.
looking at in the future, cause unfortunately, just about everything that I have that needs fixed, I have to call someone to come do it. So that's what I'm just.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. I don't disagree with that, but there are quite a few things on here that, some major expenses that were done, and I'm not singling you out because we've got complex, we've got conservation, we've got all sorts of stuff that the money was spent before it was
Before it.
technically approved, and it shouldn't be done that way. But you should have a maintenance budget.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
So maybe a little bit closer dialogue with you and me or whatever, and so we can track it and watch it a little closer.
I just hate to get to the very end and then.
I don't want to micromanage either.
But no, but I'm always told, well, I can't do that, so you're gonna have to hire it out, so then I hire it out. And I'm not a maintenance person. I try my best to fix what I can
Yeah.
before having to call
And we
someone.
appreciate
But
that.
I'm not a maintenance
I get it.
person by no means,
I get it.
but when I follow the rules and make up the sheets, and then I'm told I have to hire it out, then that's what I do, so that way it gets fixed.
Okay, when we hire it out and we need to get an estimate what it's gonna cost before we allocate him to fix it. I know it's another
Unless it's
step.
emergency.
Yeah, but it sounded like we just had water backing up and it maybe didn't get carried out right, but I'm just saying, before we don't get the shock, we don't have any room in our budgets for any money, and we are
I
not
get
like
that.
federal government, we can't print more.
$300 is one thing, $30,000 is quite
And
another.
$300 one can
So-
turn into 30,000.
Right, but like when I start adding up all these little bills, they can turn into $20,000.
Right,
Some
but
things-
it's a lot like the Board of Health in their cars. So they're maintaining this fleet of cars, and we looked back last year and we had one that. It took like $10,000 or $12,000 worth of repairs over the year, but we didn't really pay attention to that. Well, geez, we could have almost bought another car for that.
New car.
So we're looking at those issues too, and that. Kind of the same sort of thing, maybe,
I do pay attention to
I'm not saying. you're not.
every time we have to hire
I
somebody to
get
come do something, whether it's change a light bulb or. 'Cause it has happened, or whatever. I'm just asking for
Yeah.
future. That's it.
Yeah, I'm not leaning on you, I'm just saying we need to, in general, we need to kind of go at it.
Bend down, ask.
I just remember, like what we spent. I don't know how many times I tried to do an amendment. And when you signed the 28E agreement, those numbers were
I
there.
know, and
So
we
that's-
get grants that come in, so
Oh, I got it.
we're gonna have an amendment
Right,
regardless.
so just understand that,
Yeah.
and if we have a vehicle that gets told or whatever, we're gonna have to get
I know
another
that.
vehicle on that.
I understand that.
We're keeping track of
I
the
get it.
numbers and
I
we
get
know
it.
that revenue is going to be there.
And I'm not calling your department out in particular, it's just a
Yeah.
5-page document that we're trying to
No,
get caught up on, and I know
I was
it'll be
just-
here every year, but.
I was just here to answer, those
Yeah.
questions if you had.
I'm just saying in general, we're gonna try to,
And we try
Change.
really hard to not call anybody,
I know you do, I know.
And it's
You got
everybody.
quite a facility with a lot going on.
Yeah.
absolutely.
And new and old.
And when we have repairs, let's hold people accountable. I don't wanna get charged for that peeling and stuff again. You know what I'm saying? So we just gotta make sure it gets fixed right.
Let's see if anybody else in the public has any comment, Brad.
I'm hearing what you're saying. Is this $500 and some $1,000? Is that additional money that's been spent that we haven't allowed? for?
So it's both, it's revenue, it's an added revenue that's coming in that we didn't anticipate. That revenue is just short of $1 million, and it's divided up.
Has it been spent then?
Yeah, well, our expenses are 1.5. So between the two, we have an increase in our budget expense of
Is that
$583,000.
deficit then?
We're already currently in a deficit. That was my question to Susan. how does this amendment affect the overall county budget? She doesn't know that number, but
Okay.
she's working on
You'll-
that
you'll
number.
present that.
Yeah, well, I'm sure I'll have it.
You think that
sometime
have
this
that
week.
today?
No.
No.
Doubt it.
Probably not
Sometime
till the
this
end of the
week.
year.
You won't know until second
It's
week of
usually.
July,
in-
Yeah.
The very, very end.
because everything's
Well,
left, it's gonna go back into the budget, general, right?
Yeah,
That's the
The
number
only
I
thing
keep
you're
my
supposed
finger
to
on
do
the pulse with.
is-
Okay,
are
But
the
all
end of
these
June
numbers-
And December,
All these little amendments affect all that, so that's why I'm trying.
but they were being done by the previous auditor. Whenever anybody wanted them before, there was one year, there was 5 or 6 amendments and. You are not to do that, you've got 2 timeframes.
I'm trying to figure out what deficit we're gonna start with next
Mhm.
fiscal year. That's what I'm trying to figure out,
I see.
so that we can try to save throughout next
And that
year.
makes sense, I don't think I was kind of.
Try and,
Thank you.
try
I
and,
didn't bring the published notice with me. I thought I had, but I didn't. So how does that vary from what Sean is asking?
That doesn't, that's,
Should very well.
no, it doesn't vary.
But doesn't that answer Sean's question?
Well, he's wanna know how much is in the checkbook at the end of the year to know how deficit
how big.
You're
we
asking-
start the new budget with.
It was 200 and some thousand.
280,000.
And I don't know how, I would assume
Over.
you add,
But we're
you
gonna
add
get,
this
we're
to
gonna get more revenue in, that's the thing.
and
we never know
lost,
how
we've got
much.
all
Yeah.
this going on, I know.
Yeah.
You're just asking the cash.
You're right, I'm trying to figure out where we're at, where we're gonna anticipate
What we
being
think
at the
had
end
to
of the
start.
year.
Well, but from the accrual basis, the published notice.
Yeah, I wanna,
shows the numbers.
and you probably won't know the exact cash, but like they said, the second week in July, you won't know the actual number. But I'd like to not be shocked.
Are we ready to make a motion to close the public hearing and
Well, unless there's any more questions out there. If not. I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to close the budget amendment hearing for the 2024 budget.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, back to regular meeting.
You wanna go ahead and do number 9 then?
Please.
As much as it pains me, I will. Make a motion to accept resolution 202-420. Fiscal year county a budget amendment.
And I'll second that.
Any discussion?
A question, just, for the future, when we go through these things, it would be nice if. The rest of us could know what's going on amendments and expenses and where we are at the end of the year.
That's exactly what I said before you
Yeah,
walked in
because-
here.
Essentially, the deficit is secondary roads, taking money.
Get it?
And I just want to make sure that when we get out of this mess, that
No.
we're getting reimbursed, because I have much projects that I can't do, which is fine.
I asked that question and Susan is working on it. She'll let us know soon. And I'll let everyone else know.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Excuse me, you were expecting checks for the different veterans groups for your Purple Heart?
Yep.
Give it.
Oh.
Well, it got handed to me, so I'm gonna
Just
you
fix
back.
Thank you.
our
Yeah,
budget
thank you.
deficit right there. Just fixed our budget and then.
Well, I've been asked to order some more signs, so,
Oh, okay, great.
so, yeah, I'll get them and pass them on to Selena for payment.
We want Adam to give his report.
Yep.
Real quick before we
Just
go
get
into the floodplain.
Okay, well, shortly then, shortly, this week, you know, with the holidays, have had some rain and some little bit of flooding in Iowa. We've got a couple roads underwater, but nothing too serious. Our
crossing down at Indian, so we're working fine, so. That going on. Captain Russell's let again, but nothing going on there, so. And for maintenance, we're basically doing mowing and, rock is just about done. We've done some pipe work and a little bit of ditching here and there. Prepping up for next week, we're gonna replace that wooden deck on that bridge. Kind of neat, Indian Slope area, all that. Been getting some pipe lining and repair done, up on the G44X. Other than that, Mike just around spraying, so. All that, not a lot going on now, but we're staying busy, I guess. Best we can in the rain and all that, so. Any questions for me or anything going on? It didn't get you an answer on the rock, I'll have to do that again, or ask about that.
The size.
Yeah, yeah, our operator was gone, so I didn't have a chance to ask him about it, so.
So I'll thank him for a second. They sprayed out our flagpole in our jail area and they delivered some extra rock that they had for us and we're doing landscaping out there, so. We're working things out with barely spending money, so solving some of our weed and crappy looking issues out there, so.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Anything in the updates on the detours, Adam? On the 61?
Nothing really, Justin and Mike Mike's at a meeting with 92 now, I'll get a report when he gets back from that. Justin went to the 61 meeting last week during board meeting again. He said that they have not given us a date as to when the detour off of the K road will be.
What is the reason for the K road?
They're gonna run some, so essentially they're gonna grade and construct everything for the new interchange there. So they've gotta change the grade a little bit, widen it out and run some pipes under the road. So they're gonna do that work, get it paved up and all that, and then leave it for 2 or 3 years. And then when the overpass comes, that is already built, so.
So Adam, will they fix that speed bump just to the east of the stop sign to Newport?
East of stop sign, they're probably gonna do nothing there. Yeah, they,
That asking has been there since they put the
Yeah.
K road in.
Yeah, since 2000.
yeah. You know, so. At some point, next couple of years, that'll become state highway 78, so it won't be ours, but. That
Little piece,
No,
from there to the interstate.
quarter mile or whatever it is, so. So, yeah, during that period, there'll be a detour, I don't know, end of July, going into September, I believe, is the date now.
That's what I.
And, they'll probably use gravel 123rd and 30th, and then southbound traffic will go down I-Ave. Past.
Hmm.
Past Masters and all that, down that way, so. We'll work with.
Problem. Or half a month.
Yeah, so anyway, we'll work on the details on that too over the summer here, so. But I had a little rack up on X17 last week, guy driving a tractor, another guy passed him or something and off in the ditch. I don't know if it's construction or related, but anyway, and there's a wreck on it now. It's not ours, not our road right now. It's the idiot, so they can't.
Anything else for Adam on this? Hey, Adam, you gonna do the conversations on the FEMA floodplains, or who's doing that? Adam's gonna.
I was gonna comment on it, I wasn't gonna present it, but if Adam's too busy or something, I don't know. Need that here.
Looking through these maps, these are maps that were made public in like 22. I think it's kind of what triggered the transfer station thing and transfer some of that discussion up in Fredonia. And I think these are just the publications of what was discussed then. I know time we can talk about the original plan had a lot of OCO going into zone A. And if you remember, there was quite a bit of us think about that because they were using new FEMA data with old core mapping and it didn't count. So it appears that the OCO back in zone X, which is what it's supposed to be. They also extended some of their mapping of some of these smaller creeks off the Iowa. Nothing that really surprising. I didn't go through and look at everybody's houses, but from what I've seen, the map tend to make sense, even if I think they're a little aggressive out. We'll have to walk over here, but. I don't know if there's been any other comments about it or any individual properties. I guess if anybody has any official questions, I can take a look at them and pass them along to whomever.
And I'm wondering too, with an updated area, we ought to have some way to communicate with the people that are in that zones, because it's a changing zones.
Mm-hmm.
And there might, a lot of people probably not aware of that zone being changed.
Yeah, are there these maps something that we can publish on our website or something? Like I could share it, I'm sure. You know, other people share it, they bring it to that, thank you, link and they can check out individual properties. I also know that on Google Earth, there's also a mapler that people can get to, so.
Let's put one map on the beacon.
There is a floodplain layer on Beacon. Off the top of my head, I don't know what vintage those are. I know these maps have been out for a while, and I think it was updated a couple of years back, so I would assume they're pretty close, but I'll look on my head. I don't know for sure, so.
I guess that's good for Oakville.
It's good for Oakville. And, are they planning on taking the word revise off of the preliminary map then?
I think, I would assume after this 90-day window, then these will be published and it'll be yeah.
And then what we see would be what we will have.
Yeah.
Which is good for us.
Yes.
All zone X instead of AE and the other things, so.
Yeah, so basically the first round, and I don't know if there's that meeting, we went out to the ambulance door, I don't know, it was 2019 or I was just assistant then. It was the day I was going to vacation, I remember I went to meeting first. And they had all of local and zone A. It's as if the levy didn't exist. And that would have been the ability to get any financing in Oakville just would have been done. So the errors in the mapping were pointed out to FEMA and they did change it. And I know the people down at the two rivers were very active in that. I was expecting, so.
Well, that's all due to the building of the levee and.
Yep.
Or certification of it.
That's why we got that designation. And we fought long and hard for that, so.
But before that, when they had half of Oakville, Zone A and Zone X, they forgot to allow for the pumping station to get rid of seawater.
Yeah,
And that took about a 2-year fiasco,
yeah, so.
which caused everybody's insurance to go up.
It wasn't the best hour for them, on that, assuming they.
Will we ever get a complete? This isn't complete.
Well,
It doesn't show
This is
grand
still
view,
not-
it doesn't show.
Well,
They're still in a 90-day window.
if you go on to the FEMA website link, I think Brian Hall shared it with me and maybe everybody else, maybe that's something that can go on the website, but. That does have the whole county. I think these are the ones that were updated.
Okay. I may go in and look at
I
those.
still don't get the transfer station area with the
I don't-
drainage ditch and that's.
I
it's
don't
a
get it
mess.
then.
It's a mess. And that's why I wanna make sure that we look at it because we only get a small window to contest the flood mapping and Adams in court, but this is, I think, something that we need to let people know because this is an area where they cannot get permits to build in anymore. I mean, that's the way our laws go that, and they have to have flood insurance if they're in that area, and it just makes a mess. So we gotta make sure that we go through this and not just take it, because I don't trust anything they put out. With the transfer, we tried fighting it on that, and we ended up spending 30,000 to fight it. And they want us to spend 500,000 to put the levee around there, so we just chose to move everything, and we did it for just about 100,000, but. It's ridiculous, it's.
Would
There's
it
so
be to our advantage to get this through? By sending word to them that we approve our section
Well,
that we are concerned with?
what it makes, no, I think Oakville itself is
okay.
pretty well. I think that the lower area down around the pumping station might be a little aggressive. I mean, it isn't like there's any houses down there anymore, so I don't know if it's worth fighting over or not, but there's a lot of zone A there. But maybe that's right too, so.
But for the overall mapping of the, for this date, for the 2022, they should change that and make it 2024.
Yeah, I think once it's
Bring that
done,
update.
it'll be done.
Hello, busy morning.
holiday weekend then.
And what we've been doing is just kind of going through this and my biggest concern is letting this 90-day window expire without anything that did not get looked at. The areas, because just looking at the map, it's kind of hard to recognize that what area you're in as far as how far they expanded it. We just want to make sure that everybody gets a chance that has these properties, looks at that. And has an opportunity to contest it. Your thoughts, Adam?
Well, you've got 90 days, meaning the county or the public, post publication, which my understanding hasn't happened quite yet. To contest it. So I don't know what this map looks like compared to the last map.
So, this map was developed in 2020 and 21 and all that, and then a draft of it came out in 22, which triggered a lot of the problems out of the transfer station and places like that. Some discussion on from the Oakville bottoms, and this map looks very much like what the end product of that was. So I assume this is what the product was. This is your last hope for, and
any changes.
And air, yeah, an air, something like that, so. I assume like these flooded, or these areas within. The ones junction, I'm sure their council has. Taken a look at it.
Well, see, we didn't get a packet. So I think in the construction area, I don't think anything changed because Fredonia changed. And so we got a packet for them. And so I just want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to hoop and holler. I don't know how good it does. It seems like when they send you something, they already have their mind made up about that change it. Like it better be spent, I think around 30,000 at the transfer station just to try to get them to. And they wouldn't budge.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, they're expecting if you have an objection, to provide some scientific data as well, that shows.
Yeah, these are obviously computer models of some kind, and
Yeah.
you'd have to review the computer models somehow.
Right. Those do not necessarily have to be provided within the 90 days, but you know, file your objection, and I can follow up with that later if you need to.
Then Adam, should we have a public hearing on accepting this for Oakville?
I don't think you need to have a public hearing to
Just in
accept
the-
it, but if you want to object to it, you have to do that within the 90 days.
But we should go through the council and approve it.
You could,
Okay,
not required, but you could.
that's what we thought we would do.
Does anybody know what precipitated the new map? What change occurred that they needed to update the last one?
Yeah, there's a new version every 5 to 10 years. I think, you know, a lot of this is the technology for, aerial work has improved, the computer modeling has improved. I think their goal is to be as accurate as they can be with the tools that they have. And sometimes those tools don't work. I know in that Fredonia, right, they showed the entire town in zone A. And, you know, I caught that and said, hey, there's a big levee here, and the levee was the railroad tracks, right? The amount of water that it would take to flood the town couldn't actually get there because of the railroad tracks. And so that was something that was noticed and fixed. And so it's in a better area now.
In the recertification of the or Two Rivers levy kind of trigger this.
I think so too. It's just new technology, new data now. They are trying to be as accurate as possible. Sometimes I think they're a little beyond their scope, but
I think Two Rivers spent a lot of money going after this, the certification of the levy. It wasn't just automatic. They put a legal.
No, they had to assess more taxes to pay for the $1 million recertification.
Yeah. So it wasn't something easy.
And it took
a lot of cost.
8 years to recertify that levy.
Well, the reason I brought that up is the last time we went through this mess, they had zone X and zone A running right down the middle of Main Street and over.
Right, that's when they forgot to allow for a pumping station.
So that's when we brought some politicians in, and I parked right in the middle of the street, and I said, I want you to know that you're in a floodplain and I'm not. Bravo didn't know it.
And we are now.
so I can, whatever links you have, you know, I can post them on the Facebook page and let people know, and hopefully that'll help spread the word a bit too. If we get
Does this help or hurt Fredonia or Columbus Junction?
after the
They're,
change,
they're the silent person here in the room. I don't know what to do about that, but.
after the changes that were made, you know, a couple years ago, it looks like Fredonia is where it should be. Columbus, I don't know what the opinion is, because I've not been involved in their planning or anything.
I know.
Yeah.
Chris, Last week, Sam Braden, the mayor
Right.
of Fredonia, said that everything he thought was settled.
I knew he took maps and went home
Yeah,
to do.
yeah, and he said that, I had talked to him and he said that he did not think that they needed to do anything, go forward with anything, because everything was set in place, is what he told me.
I'm trying to look at zone A, see if it any encompasses any houses. That's what I was kind of looking at this.
In Columbus there along Railroad Street, it could be some houses in there, I don't know for sure. So, if you wanted to build within that area, let's say you're building a cabin or or something, you can get a survey done and they will identify the flood elevation at that property and fight like that too, so.
I'll try to reach out to the Mayor Junction and see if they have any concerns.
Is there a timeline for
There's a 90-day,
the new mapping to be printed and done then? Or are they keeping this 22 version and just taking off the word revised? It shouldn't have that on there. Really, if it now will be the provisional map.
And my
I would think they
assumption,
would take that off.
my
So
assumption
that
would be 90 days after the date that's on there, it won't be preliminary anymore. So after March, April, May, June 24th, 2022 is 90 days, right?
No, it'd be from May 30th, because that's the second official publication, so.
Then they'll wait
June, July, August, and end of August.
They'll wait for the end of the 90 days and then they may have to wait beyond that if there's data coming in from somebody objection. And so they'll consolidate all the objections into one for their review and making some determination after that. So it would probably be fairly shortly after 90 days if there's no objection.
I just got a text from Sam. He said we got an update from FEMA representative named Krieger who told us that our floodplains maps are fine. The work we did 2 years ago was accepted. And this notification is about officially updating all the maps that were proposed back then. He also said Oakville was okay. They did their work also.
system the Mayor put on there.
Yeah.
Really, the one good question we got, if it goes from preliminary to the Bonita's question.
Yeah, I
think we could fire off to FEMA.
assume that red marking will be changed, oh yeah, changed to under black and it was sit on you feel that if you're building or if you're gonna. If you're going to finance something, you're gonna use these maps, yeah, future, yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? Thanks for everybody's input. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, Sean, we're gonna do 14.
Okay, he's on.
Yep, I see him.
He's on. So. Terry, you with us?
I'm here.
All right, thanks for waiting through this whole thing. Took a little longer than I hoped, but you and I met last Thursday, right?
I believe that was the day we met. Yeah.
When you get done with your little thing here, I think there's some people in the audience that would like to ask some questions as well.
Excellent. We kind of summed a lot of things up. This is kind of preliminary, so there's been a
we came out, looked at the different sites, we've done some analysis, first stop. Looking at putting solar to offset your electricity costs at a few of the layouts or a few of the locations. You kind of summarized them already. I don't know if you've got the updated layouts there to see or what you've got, but I'll just run through them really quick. The first one and probably one of the more complex ones, the courthouse, which you guys are sitting in. The service there is antiquated. It's been cobbled together. We kind of all know that. It's 208 single phase system coming in that was made into a 208 3-phase system. Not the greatest scenario, but it works for right now. What we would do, because there's not a good spot on the courthouse itself, there's not enough room on the roof. You got trees. We looked at a canopy to the south. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense because there's electric lines there. So we looked at putting it right across the street to the west. A canopy right there takes care of what you need at the courthouse. Now, in order to do that, there's some upgrades that would need to happen electrically. They would include a new transformer at the pole, which is south of the building by the street. I'd be removing the two existing transformers that are up by the building. So we would go from a 208, a cobbled up 208 system to, it'd still be 208, but it'd be a single transformer instead of two of them that were put together a single phase to create 3-phase inside the building. There'd be a disconnect where those two transformers are at. And then we would utilize the infrastructure inside the building, conduits, pipe, etc., to minimize any, I really don't want to core into that foundation. So that should allow us to use the existing conduits. That canopy would be over to the west. Like I said, it would look kind of like the picture I showed you. It's not a fully balanced cantilever. It's 4 rows of modules, 3 up, 1 down, from the single post. A little bit different structure than what you've seen ours in town, just a different manufacturer that has this pre-engineered for this cantilever. And I've kind of shown you a picture of one that we've got down in Knoxville, just not quite as tall. And then the annex is just a simple rooftop system. It's a small one, goes up on the roof. We did consider that grass space over there, but there's not enough room to take care of both. So I think this is probably the most the appropriate one for these two locations. I don't have a cost from Alliant. I am budgeting $50,000 for upgrades of that transformer. I mean, they're going to pass it along to us. Could be a little more, could be a little less. I think that's a conservative number, and we won't get that until we move forward and apply and go through the process. So that's the courthouse. Second one, or I guess the first two are the courthouse and the annex. The third one's the secondary roads. Very simple, up on the roof of one of the maintenance buildings there. You see these all over the place. So very simple, easy one to do. No upgrades over there necessary. The last ones, the jail and the office by the jail, those are older systems. As far as the lines coming in from the REC, they are the REC, they're not Alliant. So their rules are a little bit different. Their pricing structure is different. They don't net meter there. So anything we produce, we want to consume as much of it as we can. And then anything that's excess gets sold back at 3-4 cents. So when I calculate the savings on this, what I have calculated is that we would consume, get back to where my numbers are at. We would be offset. They also have time of use out there too. So we'd be offsetting 25% of it during peak times, which is between 4 and 9 p.m. The rest of it would be off peak hours on their rate structure. And we would consume 75% of what we use, sell them back 25%. It's going to depend on time of day, what's happening in the building, etc., on whether you're consuming it or sending it back. But I think this is a conservative way to go about it. I hope it comes out better, but you know, you're not gonna get full credit for every kilowatt hours produced. I mean, that just is not the way the rules are gonna work out in that REC. So there's a little bit of work there. I don't have interval data. I'd like to get that from the utility if they have it, so I can fine tune these numbers, make sure that we're close, you know, my assumptions are correct. The other thing out there is I'd like to upgrade that system to a 480 3-phase incoming service as opposed to the 208 3-phase incoming service. And then we would step it down to the 208 3-phase going into the building. That does a couple of things. It may actually be more economical for us because of the type of equipment we use. 208 3-phase is the most expensive and limited inverter setting that we can get. We like 480 3-phase. It also would get you a little bit better for future. If we had 480 3-phase out there in the future, when you're trying to upgrade any type of equipment, you have the option to use 480 volt 3-phase equipment, which generally is more efficient and more cost effective. So a lot of assumptions out there. We've got some Friday, we put in a couple of messages into the utility. We just haven't gotten answers back. We want to discuss with them, hey, what would be the cost to do that? What's the viability of doing that? And then see if I can get some additional interval data so we can fine tune that. So that's kind of the crux of them. I am going to look at one of the buildings for conservation to see if that's worthwhile, and a couple of the parks. So we just got that data on Friday. I haven't had a chance to look at it.
Looking at Langwood and some parks, so I think Langwood was our biggest consumer in power. I don't know about the parks, but the parks are busy, of course, in the summertime, but not in the wintertime, so you know, I'll have to look at that.
It's one. I mean, we've done a lot of parks. I mean, we've got PPAs and solar with 6 different county conservation boards now. So several of them are campsites. So we know how to deal with that. And we've got some that are, you know, pools are just same thing, city pools. So we know that we're producing year round, but we're really only consuming it for 3-4 months in the summer. So that's just, you run the economics of that, see if it makes sense. It may or may not make sense. Until I analyze data and put math to it, I can't tell you.
Randy, you got a question?
I do have. Terry, is that your name?
It is.
My name is Randy Four. I'm a citizen here in the county. And
Okay,
I
Randy.
understand you want to bring in some long-term liability that the county may be facing should something happen to your company. I think that you need to provide a financial statement for your company, any parent company that you might have, for our county attorney to look at, to make sure that your company is a sound company for our county going forward 20-30 years from now. The other thing is, we need a copy of your insurance policy. I don't know if anybody's come up with that. These are good businessmen, but I haven't heard anything of that yet. And then the bond that you have to ensure that you will dispose of this stuff in the future. You've promised to do that. I understand. Is that correct?
Well,
I mean, I think
it's either remove or turn the equipment over to us.
yeah, you need a bond to ensure that that is held up. Do you understand what I'm saying there?
Yeah, so this is a power purchase agreement.
I mean, it's just not a good old boys contract type thing. We need to see that information that you have a sound company there.
It'd be covered in a 20B, which is pretty normal.
You don't want to see this financial statement?
It's usually covered in a 2080.
I say though, I think the county attorney should look at that stuff. And then, yeah,
He'll look at it.
yeah, but he's gonna provide that.
Yeah,
right?
that's pretty
And
preliminary.
then the other thing is, could we see a flow of the money that you get from the federal government to help do this, or whoever your money source is to help pay for this stuff? Don't you get money from the Clean Energy Act?
So we're gonna get the investment tax credit, which is a 30% tax credit on the federal side. We're gonna take depreciation.
Okay,
And I have tax investors who want those things. Those are the 2 main drivers. Okay. And then we're going to have a loan, probably Two Rivers Bank on this project, because they're kind of our local bank. It used to be Lee County Bank, Two Rivers bought them, so that's kind of my local bank.
Sure.
That's likely who's going to be there, and then it's cash of mine and cash of, you know, our tax investors. So that's where the money comes from.
The county needs to see that flow of cash, so just,
Well, you're gonna see, I can tell you how much that is, and it's actually shown on on some of the preliminary that I've provided. I'm not giving you the tax information for my investors or myself. You're not gonna provide me your tax credit, tax returns, so that doesn't make sense.
yeah, I'm
That's
not.
not what you're asking, I assume.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, those are,
Yeah, I think that's good business for the county to want that stuff. I don't need to see it, but I
well,
think,
but I don't know that it's even necessary though, is it? I mean, does it matter how I come up with how I'm gonna pay for it, as long as your contract is gonna be, you're gonna buy power from me. You're gonna allow me to put solar on your facility that I own and sell you electricity.
what if you go broke? Are we stuck with it?
Gosh, if I go broke and stop sending you a bill, then you're gonna have free electricity. That's a pretty good deal for you.
What if you get hit with a hailstorm?
No, I mean, it's your attorney will look over the power purchase agreement. There are, what do I say, clauses, there's language in there. The bank that I have the loan in is gonna have rights for, you know, they wanna make sure their loan gets covered. So if I hit by a bus, go out of business, blah, 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 whatever, cease to exist, they've got rights in making sure that, you know, they still get paid for the electricity it's producing so that the loan can be paid off.
I do
Okay.
have one question for you, Terry.
We have provisions in there with our accountants, with our monitoring service, with the contractors to make sure that if I go away, and I hope to be around for another 50 years, so let's not jump on the bus there, that it continues.
I have a question for you. Do you insure the solar panels or do the county insure the solar panels?
I insure my equipment.
Okay,
So I insure while I own it, I insure it, and I insure it for wind and hail and then liability.
okay.
And I do that with all of
You've got a
150
bond that
systems that
guarantees
we have out there.
that will be
Okay.
taken care of in the future.
Pardon me, I didn't hear you.
A bond that you will take care of things in the future.
I've never been asked to put up a bond for potential future removal.
I guess that's a question. He has a question. What happens at the end of 30 years?
At the end of, it's a 20-year contract. At the end of 20 years, you've got three options. One is to continue on, renew it for 5 years at a time. The second is you can buy it, and you can buy it anytime after year 5. Okay. And generally in year 20, about 2 years worth of electricity is what would it pay for itself. Then you can figure you have 2 cents electricity to cover maintenance and insurance and, you know, replacement of equipment as they go out. So that's a pretty good deal. Or you can say, hey, Terry, remove our red line, remove our stuff. We don't want it on our property. It's your equipment, remove it. Now, I'm not going to pull wires out of the ground. I'm going to try to pull the ground mounts. We're going to pull the posts out, you know, or cut them off if they won't come out. We're going to take all the equipment down. We do have one rooftop. So rooftop, you know, we're going to take the stuff off. I'm not going to pull, most of that's going to be surface mount, so it will come out. But if it were inside in wall cavities, we wouldn't be digging out of wall cavities. We'd abandon that in place. So, you know, we're going to make it back as close to what it is right now as possible. But, you know, that's the third option that you've got.
I think once you have it, why would you not have it anymore? You know, unless different technology comes around that makes it better somehow.
Yeah, and that's kind of like people ask me that too. Would you ever replace the equipment? I'm like, not really. I mean, I have a truck that's paid off and still runs pretty good. I don't need to go buy a new one just to buy a new one. If you stop using you know, unless you stop using the building, you know, that may be the option that gets considered of wanting to move it, is if you stop to use those buildings, stop having to use electricity, then you might want to move it. And we can move it after 5 years. For the tax credits, it has to stay connected to that meter that we tie it to for 5 years. Otherwise, there's IRS crap that goes on and recaptures, and we don't want to go down that road. Okay, so then, and we've got this going on in a couple of places. We got a couple of school districts that, you know, they building a new building and they're moving, shifting classes around. So we're dealing with them on, okay, when the time comes, do we move stuff around or is it go somewhere else? But I mean,
Yeah.
you're still gonna need electricity. You're still gonna, you know, the courthouse still gonna need lights, the jail, the office, all these are still gonna need it.
I want you control the meeting. I want you just to ask your
Okay.
questions and then.
Thank you, Terry.
I wasn't trying to control
I know,
that.
I just want to make sure you ask your other question. Okay, go ahead. Okay, we have, you showed that the $6,000 to $8,000 a year savings for the county.
Mhm.
How's the, what bill would we pay monthly? We would continue to pay the same amount after they was installed to get you paid back for a 20-year period, correct? So
Mine is based on electricity. You're buying electricity, so it behooves me to keep that thing up and running as best as I can. Because if it's off, I can't sell you electricity. And I still have to pay my mortgage, my loan to the bank. So you're gonna have two bills. You're gonna have a bill from me for electricity that solar produces. You're still gonna have a bill from Reliant or the REC. Just add the two up, will be $6,000 to $8,000 less per year than your current bill with just Alliant or the REC, depending on the facility.
So with the bill for Reliant that we would be getting is what you did not provide the off solar time, is that what, I'm just trying to make sense of this.
Correct. For Alliant, well, both of them, they're gonna see, hey, they don't know how much solar is produced because if you're consuming it. So if the sun's out and we're producing and you're consuming it, it doesn't go through their meter. They have no idea how much that is. So when you look at your Alliant bill or the REC bill, it will not tell you how much solar was produced or consumed. All they know is when you pulled from them, like at night or on a stormy day, and when you pushed back to them, like on a sunny day, let's say a sunny Sunday in the middle of summer or in the spring, when the air conditioner's not running, we're producing it, we're not consuming it all, we're sending it back to utility. So that's where we start getting credits for it. The difference in the economics for these two utilities is how they deal with when it goes back. With Alliant, it's net metered, so you get full credit for all the kilowatt hours that are sent back, offset any kilowatt hours that you got from them. So it's basically retail credit. The REC is different. The REC, if you send it back, you're getting avoided costs, which is about 3 cents. You're paying full retail for anything that you're pulling from them. Right. So at night, you know, you're going to be pulling from them. Right now, you're using, and that's where I'd like to get this interval data so I know exactly time of use from the REC. I don't need it from Alliant because of the net metering, but from the REC, I'd like to be able to get that data to fully understand, okay, what is happening how much is happening while the sun is shining and how much is not. And so I can run that calculation matrix a little bit more fine-tuned.
Terry, I've got a really dumb question. 2 years ago, Mid-Am was trying to drive some legislation through the legislature in Des Moines that would do away with the net meter. What happens if you get down here 5 years and they pass that and we can't sell that extra juice, or you can't sell that extra juice to Alliant?
Every time that a rate change has happened with the net metering policy, there have been some changes to the net metering policy over the last, I don't know, I've been at it for 15 years. So in the last 15 years, it's happened, I think, 2 different times. Both in that legislative one is just Alliant and Mid-Am because they're investor-owned utilities. They've grandfathered anything prior to that date. And that's what we would expect anything to happen. There's simply too many solar arrays out there from consumers that the Iowa Utilities Board, as well as the legislature, is not gonna say, okay, you can change it and nobody gets the net meter anymore. I mean, that, you wouldn't you'd have a new governor, you'd have a new utilities board, you'd have all new Congress people, so we know that's not gonna happen.
The big house would get burnt down somewhere.
What
So-
about, I understand this is low grade energy, is that correct?
Say it again.
Is this low grade energy that goes back to the utility companies?
What do you mean by low grade?
Well, I mean, can it be run at Case Company, that type of energy, would they use that if it's on the grid?
It can, yeah, it's actually what I send back is cleaner than what I get off, because
Same as what
we
comes out.
have to match up, we have to match up the power.
Does that ever get burned off if the grid's full?
Not by me, but I mean, I don't know what happens to the rest of the rest of the grid. It goes through the meter and it gets used on somebody else's house.
Okay.
If we're getting credit.
But I mean, one thing that we do find, which kind of related to your question or comment, is that my inverters are more sensitive than most of your equipment. So if there's dirty power out there on the line, the inverters will not work. They have to match up the sine wave of electrons on the line in order to push power out. And I've had this happen. So if for some reason there's over voltage, under voltage, it's just not a very clean sine wave. It's got laser lags in it. My inverters will throw an error code and they'll stop. And then we've had times where I've had Alliant have to get into their transformers and replace them or adjust them because they were putting out way too high a voltage. And it was actually burning up panels inside of, it was actually for a manufacturing facility. They were burning up panels and controllers and all that because they had dirty power coming in. We put solar on and they cleaned up the power and they had stopped having that issue.
That happened here at the county several times.
Jim, did you have a question on some of this stuff? No, no questions for Terry on this stuff? Yeah,
Oh, no, I think. it's
Okay.
Explained as far
All right.
as call out.
okay.
On their 5-year, 10-year, 15, I know you're gonna come up with that, but the buyback on that is, it's a 20-year contract. At the end of 20 years, that would be our equipment at that end. Is that way you?
No, you'd still have to buy it. I mean, I own it until you buy it. And I can't just gift it to, I mean, I could probably gift it to you. I can't sell it to you for a nominal dollar. That does not fit with IRS rules. If I did that, or if you see a PPA contract that has a nominal buyout that's not based on fair market value, then it's not a legitimate contract and the IRS can pull all the tax credits and somebody's not going to be happy.
How do you come up with that value?
It's based on the revenue estimate. So there's 4 different ways you can do fair market value. One of those is based on revenue, projected revenue, and that seems to hold up. And that's what we use.
The good part about staying with them though, is they're responsible for all the maintenance. So if something goes completely haywire, they've got to fix it. We don't have to burden that, shoulder that requirement.
The other cool thing that we see from our customers is that, I can tell you how much it's worth now, but in 5 years, when you have the option to buy it, you know what it did. I mean, it produced how much it produced. There's no fudging these numbers, You'll know how often I had to come out there and fix it or how infrequent I had to come out. You'll know how much it actually produced, not just what I'm estimating it. You'll have real actual data. You'll know whether you like it or not. So, you and I all see, snake oil salesmen out there and they'll sell you a system and they say it's going to pay itself back in 3 years. And then they built it, they got paid and they're gone. Okay, well, I'm around for 20 years. You're never required to buy this system, but if you choose to, 6, 7 years from now, you've got 6, 7 years of real history that says, if I'm telling you the jail is gonna produce 330,000 kilowatt hours a year and it only produced 200,000 kilowatt hours a year, well, you're not buying it for 200,000 kilowatt hours, production. You're buying, hey, this is what it did, this is what it's worth. So there's no you're not buying a lemon, you know what you're buying.
You have
It's
a
kind of
lot of
a nice way.
references that you can provide these guys,
Say it again.
a lot of references that you can provide our supervisors.
Well, school.
Sure, you can talk to any one of my, anyone, and you got some of them right there in town.
Other than in
Yeah,
town.
they're
Sean, I
right
mean,
here.
okay, you've got references then.
Yeah, I got it.
Pull back
Well, yeah,
down.
but that was-
Fort Madison.
And where you're located,
We've got contracts with 40 different cities, schools, and a couple of churches in Iowa alone.
where's he at?
So you could talk to, you know, in your neck of the woods, we've got, you know, obviously City of Wapello is just under construction. Wapello Schools has been up for a year. You can go down to Mediapolis Schools. We can go keep going down. Down in Burlington, we got Notre Dame Schools. That's been up for 6 years now. 5 years here. Fort Madison's up for a couple of years. SEC both in Burlington and in Keokuk, Lee County. We've got 5 different facilities there. We go a little bit further west. You got Williamsburg, Palo, Lisbon, Mount Vernon. Keep going. Knoxville schools, Pekin schools, Sigourney schools. And just keep going west. So I can get you plenty of references. Easy enough.
That's good, thank you.
Okay. Anything else, guys?
Where do we go from here, Terry?
I want to do a little bit of confirming of some numbers. What I see is I want to get with the REC, understand a little bit more there, see if I can get the interval data. Maybe they don't have it, I don't know. So we can kind of flush out a few of these assumptions. I am going to look out at the office and jail, the time of use, because like I said, you're paying 19, almost 20 cents a kilowatt hour between 4 and 9 p.m. That's the most expensive power you got. The rest of the time, it's 9 cents. So that 4 to 9 window is worth over twice what it is the rest of the day. So I'm going to try and recalculate and see if it makes sense for us to turn these a little bit towards the west instead of straight south, so that we can offset a little bit more of that peak. So there's a little bit more flushing out I want to do before we fine tune it. And then once we fine tune it, then I'll update the proposal, send it to you. If you're good with it, then we contract it, build it. We probably won't get any numbers from Alliant for a transformer upgrade. I'm estimating on some that we've had to upgrade. You know, we're upgrading one there. We did one in Wapello for the schools. At the high school, we're probably going to have to do another one out at the wastewater treatment plant and a couple other places on other projects. So we're kind of estimating that, but Alliant is not always the quickest, and their pricing is not always consistent. So that's kind of my best guess. But we would move forward, and if for some reason theirs comes back and say, hey, we're going to charge you $250,000, we may just say no, thank you, we're not doing it, type of thing. So that's just kind of a heads up that we have to get contracted for it to be able to move that piece forward. But that could happen. It could come back that Alliant wants to upgrade, their whole substation, and, then it makes it not feasible for any of us. And I have no interest in doing a project that's not going to save you money. That's why we've only, you have a few more facilities that just don't pencil out very well. So that's where I'm at. Probably take a week or two to get info from the REC. Once I have that and flush it, then I'll reach back out to you and with a final proposal with numbers, fine-tuned numbers, and then it's approved for contracting.
I think you'll find out at the jail that the main office complex is busy during the day, but not so busy at night because everybody's gone. But that jail in itself is kind of like its own city. It runs 24/7,
365, yeah.
Obviously, they're going to shut a few lights off at night, but
at 10 o'clock it goes off, and then they come back on at 4:30 in the morning.
you still got dispatch
still have
running
dispatch
and all
running,
that,
absolutely.
and so you might see a little bit of a lag, but it's a big power consumer 24/7, I'll bet.
Well, we know how much it uses all the time. The question and this may get trimmed down. So I don't think it's not gonna get bigger. It's gonna get smaller. It's a question of how much is on peak versus off peak. How much is during the day, you know, especially for the jail part, how much of that is during the day versus night? You know, it's 3 cent power that you're getting credit for at night. You know, or when we send it back. So I mean, we want to minimize how much we send back.
Yeah, right.
We maximize how much that peak we offset, because that's your 20 cent power. You know, and if we're only charging you 10, then there's where it's making it. So we want to try to get rid of, you know, take care of as much of the peak as possible, and then minimize how much additional is sent back. There's gonna be some sent back. There's no question about it.
Yeah,
You know,
but we're gonna get
big difference between summer and winter.
Some of it 3 cents.
You got 4 hours of sunlight in the winter, you got 16 hours in the summer. So we know that doesn't quite match up, you know, as well. So we're just gonna try and fine tune and see if we can get the best bang for the buck for you to get the savings. So that's where I'm at now. I want to make those tweaks, calculations. I can get some more data in order to do that.
Sounds good.
Great.
We'll expect a couple weeks, right?
Yeah, it's gonna take at least 2 weeks, I would guess. It really is gonna depend on how soon I can get that information from the REC. Sometimes they're quick about it, sometimes they're not, you know. Most of the time they're pretty good about it. But yeah, it's gonna take me probably at least 2 weeks.
All right. Let me know if you need anything.
Okay, we'll do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, there's no other business.
15, you were gonna F out, Matt.
Oh, I didn't put it in. Thank you. We got the situation where we have somebody's gonna be off, for a while, that's taking care of our maintenance and janitorial. Help, so we can't get into too much of it, so we're gonna need to hire somebody part-time, probably Serpro again, just part-time to cover his vacancy. And then mowing also to look at, somebody, maybe get some bids on some mowing thing here, so that's coming up pretty quick, so we're gonna get onto it, so.
So Serpro will do the cleaning. Do they do maintenance too?
Never have.
When stuff happens, we'll have the
call.
departments call me and then I'll call you guys
That one, yeah.
and then.
We're going to get some costs. But,
Okay.
so everybody's on the same page. Okay, now I'll take that.
You want a motion to adjourn?
Yep.
All so moved.
Second.
We are adjourned.